Hello, guys, and thanks for being here. Still, like this, we're getting close to the end of this long day. So today we're gonna shift the drift a little bit and start talking about how and why is it so important actually to tailor the commerce experience. Like as anticipated, we know that the commerce experience has always been kind of bulky because, like in commerce, we have a full platform with all of its complexity, and we need to cover a lot of ground related, especially like for the differentiation of the diverse cases that we have, like B2B cases, for example. We address also B2C cases, B2X cases, and so on and so forth. So the problem of tailoring is related within commerce on maintaining a good grip with the workflows, but also providing, let's say, in-depth power, like to the users or to customizers or to developers to access the information within commerce itself. So again, the point of tailoring is, of course, like it is about one size that should be fitting all. We know that e-commerce experiences have been around like for quite a bunch of time. We have plenty of experience with that. We know we go to Amazon, we go to a lot of other e-commerce platforms. And how simple is it to actually navigate those experiences? Is it just a matter of, select the product that you want, add to cart, check out, and that's it? So can you imagine an e-commerce manager that actually may want to see all of this easiness materialize into his hands or her hands and say, okay, this is the only thing that I need to do? Of course, the answer, unfortunately, it is not. It's nope, one size does not fit all. Let's take an initial example like with a classical distinction between B2B e-commerce scenarios and B2C e-commerce scenarios. Let's break it down to some key bullet points. First, when a customer, of course, like navigates throughout our pages in a case of B2B scenarios, the user may have an interest into fine-grained product information and specifications, for example. Whereas instead, like in B2C cases, we have more of a focus on captivating product information, more related to, I don't know, for example, advertisement. And anyway, like the buying scenario, the buying experience is usually more emotional. Usually for B2B case scenarios, we have large recurring orders, right, in mass. Whereas instead, like in B2C scenarios, usually we have like a small order and casual buying. In case of B2B case scenarios, again, usually we have long decisional processes, right? Because like the buying experience is very rational. It's across businesses, like between two different businesses, sellers and customers that are negotiating things. Whereas instead, like in B2C case scenarios, we have a name for quick finalization, right, of the checkout process. And finally, of course, to repeat the concept, of course, of the long rational decisions in B2B case scenarios, usually we are more focused on the trust between the actual customer and the seller, whereas instead, like on B2C, the buying experience is more influence-based, rating systems, reviews, and usually you trust your peers about this. All right, so what are we doing and what did we finally achieve in commerce to empower all users, not just the users related to, of course, e-commerce managers, but also the users who actually consume the experience and the users who actually build up the experience of, navigating through the pages of commerce. What does, in the end, like tailoring mean? Is it just a matter of style? Usually, yeah, like the old motto from Ghostbusters movie. I don't know, like if you ever managed to watch it, I guess so. There used to be like the famous motto, who you're gonna call like Ghostbusters? If it was just a matter of style, then usually for developers is, who's you gonna call if it's just a matter of style? You're gonna call front-enders, usually. It's just a matter of front-end, right? But it's not the case. To achieve all of this, Liferay Commerce now addresses the problem from multiple key points. And we are, of course, providing more tailored product information to be able to display it, of course, to the customer, and also to have a more fine-grained control of order processing. So data and integration play the initial biggest part. Secondly, another good thing, like when you maintain, from a practitioner point of view, on e-commerce, is separating the concerns in terms of dependencies across teams, right? Usually, within an e-commerce management context, you have people more delegated to content creation, more delegated to setting up, a product page, tailoring the product information. Whereas instead you have like the other part, usually the technical part, which is more, about integrating with specific extensions, doing the hard work, let's say, of the coding part. And ideally, you don't want like a tight connection between these two things. You want to have them a little bit more independent, right? And thirdly, of course, we know that tailoring the customer experience also means being able to address the right product towards the right people, right? Towards the right customers. And nowadays it's very common. I mean, I guess you all get like a lot of targeted ads on your social networks and or the social network apps that you actually consume. And we have, of course, unblocked the situation as well in commerce, within commerce. How? Now we're going to see all of this like broken down to how we did it. So we finally unblocked all of this with commerce embracing the XP management system. So we heard a lot nowadays, today actually, about like how data can be imported, how experiences can be customized with client extension and so on and so forth. But for commerce, especially, like what we needed was to allow developers to get access granularly to the information that we want to actually display. So two of the richest models that we have in commerce itself, of course, one is product, the other one is order. And by finally embracing the DXP page management system, we allow for high information composability and workflow customization for these two entities throughout, like making use, of course, of the info framework through info items, display page templates, as you know, and our own set of commerce fragments. Of course, once we open the door to the display management system, we give access to more granular styling, to master pages, code reuse, being able, of course, to use fragments, as you heard every day, to be reused across multiple sites, or multiple pages, or different contexts. And finally, of course, when we were speaking about customer segmentation, we already have in the XP, of course, segments, right? They are powerful. And now they can be put to work, so to speak, also for commerce, which is a very good use case. So let's bring this all together, and then we're going to showcase all of this up with what we did with some case scenarios, like in reality with some demo. So let's, for example, re-summarize the fact that commerce already had a very rich composition of tools and elements in terms of configuration to tailor, of course, the commerce experience, right? Let's not forget about the fact that we can configure different channels. We can configure a channel like to address like B2B, B2C, and B2X cases. We have product visibility that we can, of course, like fine-tune to be displayed for specific channels, specific accounts, and so on and so forth. So we have all of this set of capabilities within the commerce platform already. But with the final embracing of the display management system for the shopping experience part, we can now provide access directly to the rich model of the different product types for product, and of course make good use of the configuration that we talked about just a minute ago. And for order as well. Order is kind of a complex entity with a lot of information inside that can be displayed, consumed, and used to compose like different custom elements or different elements like to compose the page, as well to control the transitions and workflows. So how do these map to actual pieces of functionality that now we endorse, right? That we have at our disposal? Of course, we have the basic set of DXP basic fragments. Basic fragments are very useful to display like in intuitive way, even for non-developers, like with very low code access, all the information that we need, and from there, like, we can map, of course, the information from products and orders. Of course, we provide also a set of product and order configurable fragments. Why do we do this? Well, of course, we have case scenarios in commerce that are more complex. So we have workflows, for example, for orders that are going from an action to another action, and they need to follow, for example, a specific order. We have other needs to cover. So this is why we have our own set also of configurable fragments. Then let's not forget about the current capabilities that we already have at our disposal. Like, we already have our own set of headless delivery API. We have for catalog at the level of the front store, and as well, like, for cart, for open orders, the partition of order in general between, like, cart delivery API and order delivery API for placed order. And finally, we're integrating, in the demo that I'm going to display, I'm going to show, let's say, a variation of our use of data sets, which are going to be talked about more in depth, like in the following talk that's going to happen in a while. And in the next quarter, we're going to be able to fully integrate data sets with all the customization capabilities to, display complex data also within commerce. Right now, we needed to tailor a little bit and to still access, let's say, the Java side of life. But still, it was a good compromise because, like, for data sets, of course, in commerce, we have multiple actions that we need to perform, like for the different rows related to either order or specifically for orders. And of course, like, you probably had enough already about hearing about client extensions, right? Finally, we can integrate client extensions with no particular restriction. We're not tied down, like, to portlets or to all page concepts. And we can, of course, like, go into in depth, like, with all the integration that we need and we want, with all the freedom that we need. And now, let's move on and introduce actually the demo that I prepared for you. So the quote is actually from T.S. Eliot. I've measured out my life with coffee spoons, but I refined it a little bit. Like, it's probably with coffee mugs. And this is no more from T.S. Eliot, of course. It's from an anonymous developer. As many developers know, of course, like, they probably translate coffee into code. And the other kicker, let's say, that I'm going to use from this quote is the fact that I'm going to propose you a sample, an example of a case scenario to showcase how it is important and how finally we have a granular access to tailoring the commerce experience between two cases, right? So suppose now that we have, well, I come from Italy, I love coffee, and we have a business in coffee, for example. There are many brands out there that you may know, and some of them, of course, address different customer experience, like, because they actually sell to different channels. So in one case, for example, they may sell supplies for bars, or supplies or machinery for offices, for example, with coffee machines, vending machines, and so on and so forth. But in other cases, of course, they may also tackle the usual end customer scenarios. So they may sell actual, coffee or coffee capsules, and so on and so forth. Not going to mention any name, not to give any free advertisement, so to speak, but I guess you have in mind a lot of these cases. So now, let's see how we can display all of this within a live case. We're gonna, of course, have, like, probably two sites, two commerce sites. One which is addressing the B2B, of course, customer experience, and the second which is addressing, like, the B2C customer experience, okay? I prepared, like, a bunch of AI-generated content. So, like, none of these machines actually exist, but, like, in honor of Italy, like, so many of them, of the quality of coffees are named after Italian cities. Of course, like, in this case, as you can see, we have our catalog page, something that you can actually probably remember from previous versions of commerce as well, still containing some portlets, because we're in the process of migrating, like, the customer the shopping experience, like, towards, like, pages and content pages and display page templates. But infrastructurally, this is already served and is already present and accessible from our Liferay repo. In workspaces, we have provided finally a bunch of client extensions. One is a site initializer, then a theme one, which is Minium 4, which was announced in the past, and also some JS import map client extension to showcase like the capabilities to navigate and to customize like menus. And all of this is now served here. As we can see, if we access the edit page, all of the pages are actually pages editable, like through the page builder, right? With all the list of fragments that we can actually put in place from here and actively access. This is Firefox catalog. And of course, as you may imagine, in here we have access to all the other capabilities related to Page Builder, like for example, stylebooks, as I mentioned, with specific stylings that we can put in place, which are going to be interactive. And if I change those values, they're going to be changed across like the whole site. And of course, this is the same for master pages and fragments, of course. So for page templates, of course, we have here the two display page templates to display and to be able to take control of the different pieces of information of these two rich models, right? So let's analyze one of these. Let's remember, in a B2B case scenario. And let's see, for example, our high-performance coffee machine. Let's close this. So here we have a product detail page. Like, does it look any different from the old like product detail portlet? Well, apparently, yes, no. But if we actually deep dive into it, we know that we have finally at our disposal the whole pieces to compose like our page and to tailor and showcase like the information that we need. We have, in this case, a composition of the sets of fragments, some of them based on the basic ones, some of them coming directly from us. For example, the price component, like the option selector, the add to cart. Why are those there? Because, of course, like they respond to specific actions. They need to enjoy, let's say, the whole integration with the commerce platform itself. And now they are allowed, like they are made available to compose the page itself. But of course, we can use all the basic fragments as well to map the information that we want. So in here, you can see that we have product exposed with availability status of the product, description, final price, inventory, name, and product types, and so on and so forth. So in here, for example, we were mentioning how in a B2B case scenario, the focus is more on information, right? And in here, we can actually see that. We have, of course, our product title. We can add this product to the favorites. We have availability. We have the category, and we have the description. But also, someone who wants to do business by buying this product specifically may actually want to access the specifics of this product. And of course, as we mentioned before, since the iteration for the customer experience is going to be more focused on the communication also with the seller, we know that we have a specific button there, a call to action, like to request a quote, for example, because I may want to buy, for example, 3 of them and contract the price. This is of course, an option. And of course, like the block that we have below, it's also composable. This is still it's still displaying like our old, but still very useful, like product publisher. This is, of course, showcasing upselling products. And in the case, of course, of this product specifically, we know that we can configure at the level of commerce in the product itself, like how this product can be related to many other products, of course, for upselling techniques or for cross-selling and so on and so forth. Okay, in this case, let's get back a little bit to the catalog in our amazing like Nespresso shop. And we know here that we have, for example, some big quantities of coffee that are going to be able to be sold. And of course, like coffee machines. In here, we're not really addressing any experience for the customer, for the actual end customers, right? So what can we do to address that? Let's check out our catalog in general. And we go to our products. And we can see here that we have a catalog which is way richer than what we're displaying on the B2B channel itself, right? So we have our coffee bags that we saw before. But now we can see also that we have some leftovers like coffee capsules that are really sellable, let's say, to a bar, maybe because like this is not good to be put to good use. And of course, our coffee machines. Why are they not being displayed? They're not being displayed because the products, of course, are already configured to be visible only in one specific channel, which is not the AnyEspresso business site, but it's the AnyEspresso home. So do we have another channel to deal with this kind of products? Of course we do. And let's switch to AnyEspresso home, of course, which is going to display, of course, a different set of products from the same catalog that we managed to partition and to configure appropriately to, of course, address these products like to the appropriate customers. And let's see here, for example, that we have a different PDP, a different product detail page, with information, of course, displayed in a different way that tackle exactly the issue that we were meaning before. In here, we know that the buying experience is like more emotional and it's less related like to product information. We may want to just display the captivating part of the information that probably is useful for the user, right? And in here, for example, one piece of it is the intensity. And usually you have a comparison, for example, with, okay, this aroma castle probably is too strong of a coffee, and let's go to a Napoli, well, it's too strong of a coffee again, and so on and so forth. And of course, as you can see, the number of CTAs and call to actions are diminished, but of course, like the product buying experience is going to be configurable by saying, okay, I want like 50 of these boxes, and I'm going to be able to see like the product varying immediately, and so on and so forth. This is all related to B2C. The disposition of the information is different. And of course, we still have access to the product information, but it's deprioritized in the composition of the page, because this is important. Like, it's not the same case of B2B. We don't have the same needs. We have, of course, our rating system in place. And here we covered, also we managed to cover the tailoring part, like for B2C cases. Now, the good part of composing, of having at our disposal like product display page templates is the fact that we can access these granular information from multiple different perspectives. So it's not just a matter of enhancing, let's say, low coders or no coders at all, like by acting within the context of the page editor, right? But for example, this is useful also to compose fragments or to access the low-code capabilities like of the platform or in different measures. So let's see, for example, here that we have in the composition of the page at the level of the product detail. Here we have a custom fragment, okay? And the question, of course, is, are we able to access granularly the information of the info exposed like through the info framework in a display page template also from fragments themselves? Of course, we can, and we can make good use of it. Let's now go, for example, on this fragment itself. And we have here a bunch of code, right? Now this is the first line, which is like the most important. We can, since like we're acting on the backend side of life, but from the platform itself, we have access to the request. And within the request, when the fragment is actually placed within the display page templates, which is info framework enriched, we have access, of course, to the info item. And from here, we can see, for example, that we're trying to resolve the product ID to do what? To contact our own headless API to say, for example, hey, I want to display, for example, the intensity of that specific product, the specific coffee brand. And I want to be able to manipulate it graphically. And I want to say, for example, showcase it in a manner rather than another one. Like to be able to access all of these specifications, we have an API call that we can perform directly from here through the REST client utility. And of course, invoke our own commerce delivery catalog API with the resolved product ID. So this is going to be dynamic, of course, for every product detail. And then here we have also the display part. For product specifications here, we have already like some dummy code that says, for example, that if we encounter specifically some specification that's called the intensity and specified in the product configuration itself, we can handle it like in a separate way. And this is easy peasy, adding or handling like by adding a little bit of CSS classes that we can, of course, handle through CSS specifically. Then we're done with the modifications, for example, here, which I had ready. Let's publish them. In here, like the propagation for fragments is going to be automatic, so they're going to be automatically updated like everywhere they're used. And let's get back to our e-commerce experience. And let's get back, for example, to our aroma capsules. And we see here that that specification is now taken out like from our delivery API, and it's handled graphically, of course, through the fragment itself. As here, I have like 3 more minutes. One last thing, of course, that I would like to show you is that this is specific for content for display page templates. But of course, let's not forget about the fact that for content pages, we have access now to segmentation. You can see here, for example, that I set up like a bunch of different accounts that access the commerce experience, from which we can separate or branch like the different experiences of the pages with, for example, different promotions or targeting specific customers or specific users to say, hey, there's a promo on these kind of products, on these products here, but not the other ones. And here we managed to enable actual experiences by defining different segments within the segment functionality here. For example, we have one for wholesalers. In here, I had set up like an organization that's called Wholesaling Org, like very creative. And now, as soon as we manage to access from the wholesaler experience, we're going to have, of course, the capability to display whatever we want. That's just tailored for them. Let's put here a button just as an example. Let's publish this. And here, wholesalers are going to be able to see just this. But if I go to the default one, of course, this is not going to be shown. And this is pretty much all I wanted to cover with you. Thank you a lot. Big shout out to the commerce team. And of course, you're going to find us around across the next days. If you have questions, if you have more information, that's here, Julia, our product manager, Luca, a colleague of mine, like within the commerce team, and of course, Bernard, who's going to be here as well. Thanks a lot.